Hello, beautiful people. I am Alexi. I'm a licensed professional counselor in Broken Arrow, Oklahoma, and a spiritual life coach online. I am coming to you this week to share, just briefly, a few examples of black and white thinking. Last week I made a video of an overview of what black and white thinking is. It's also known as all or nothing thinking or splitting. And if you want the overview, go ahead and check out last week's video first, then come back here and get your examples of what black and white thinking is. So, let's go ahead and just hop right into it right now. One example of black and white thinking is for students, if you don't get an A on something, then you're failing. Or if you don't get an A on something, then you are a failure. Closely related to that, and not necessarily designated to students, is that if it's not perfect, it's a failure. If it's not perfect, I am a failure. If I am not perfect, I am a failure. And so these statements are not helpful. They don't serve you, and they're also totally entirely not true. They might feel true. That doesn't mean that they are true. So let's talk about the grade thing. First of all, there are other grades besides A and F, right? And just because you get a bad grade on one assignment doesn't necessarily mean that you're failing the class. And certainly just because you make mistakes or you have failures in your life, like let's say there are things that you fail at, and there are things you fail at. You're a human being. Every single one of us fails at something, right? It's a harsh word, but it's true. We mess up. We make mistakes. That doesn't mean that we are mistakes. It doesn't mean that we are mess ups. It doesn't mean that we are failures. We're human beings. And if you operate on the basis that human beings cannot be failures, cannot be mistakes, then even better. Then apply that to yourself. You cannot be a failure. You cannot be a mistake. You are a human being who is capable of making mistakes and capable of failing certain things. And that's okay. That's what you're supposed to do. You're doing your job as a human being. So if it's not perfect, it's a failure. That also is not necessarily true. What is a failure and what is the thing? If the thing that you're doing that's not perfect is serving and helping others and is accomplishing a task, it can't be a failure. And also, it has nothing to do with you. I mean, it does, you're making it, right? But your identity, it's your behavior. It's not your identity, right? You don't have to allow your behavior to dictate your identity and how you see yourself. Another example of black and white thinking is that if I'm not in first place, then I'm in last place. Okay, look at the facts. What are we talking about? You know, how many different places are there? Can this possibly be true? The only way that statement can be true is if there's two people in the race or the competition, whatever you're talking about. If there's two people and you're not in first place, then technically, yes, you are in last place. But if you're talking about like in the game of life, that can't be true. That's not true. It doesn't serve you. It's not helpful for you to operate in that thinking. I understand that that thinking comes from trying to create a killer mindset and get something done, but it's not helpful for your functioning and for your acceptance of who you are as a human being and grace for yourself. Other examples of black and white thinking, anytime you're using the word always and really, oh, this always happens to me. Okay, let's look at that. Always. It's constantly happening to you all the time. Is that possibly true? If that's not true, then your use of always is not true, right? And not helpful either, right? Because then we can get stuck in this thinking, oh, this always happens to me. And then we focus on that, and then that's all we can see. And then so very much it looks like and feels like, yes, this does always happen to me. But taking a step back, looking at it and realizing, oh, except for this one time. Except for this one time it didn't happen. Except for this one, in this situation it doesn't happen. Okay then, it doesn't always happen. Same thing for the word never. If there is ever a time, like if you're saying, oh, this never happens to me, or you never do this, or I never do this. If you've ever done it one time, if this other person has ever done it one time, if it has ever happened for you one time, your use of never is not true. nor is it helpful. Again, that's also not helpful, because if you're thinking, oh, this never happens for me, that's what you're focusing on, that's what you're looking at, that's what magnifies in your mind. And so more and more and more, it looks like it never happens, right? So not helpful, doesn't serve. Okay, those are just a few examples of black and white thinking. And next week, I'm going to dive into what you can do when you're recognizing that you are participating in black and white thinking and it is not serving you, it is not helping you, and you want to change it. We're going to dive in. We're going to do some specific things, specific exercises next week to help you to do just that. Change your black and white thinking. So until then, remember, you are amazing. You are wonderful. You are beautiful. You are enough. I will talk to you soon. Have a wonderful, wonderful week.